Welcome to Magnificent Living Today. Are you living a life of optimal health? Do you want to make changes in your life? Do you need help setting and achieving goals? Are you ready to reform and reshape your mind, body, and spirit? Are you looking for more balance in your life? Many of us are thinking about starting a better lifestyle program, both for ourselves and or our family. We all know how difficult it can be to motivate others when we ourselves are not motivated. Sometimes we all need a little help reaching our goals. And that's why Magnificent Living today is here for you.
Welcome to Magnificent Living Today. I'm your host, Carl Powell, and we're going to be doing a three-part series on what we call the flow. Jennifer and I are here, and we're going to be joined by Rosemary Remsburg and Oliver Wilford Jr. I couldn't forget the junior part. And we're going to be talking about getting back into the flow after receiving a big blow. When I started to write this material, I wasn't really ready to talk about a big blow in my life. I was going to talk to them about big blows in their life. And on Thursday morning, I got the message that my father had passed. So I have a little bit to talk about also. We have a really good show for you. But before we go out, I just want to say that I wrote a poem for my father this morning. And during the break, I'm going to read it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And Daddy, this is for you. Now it's the final frame. And somehow I feel as though I've lost this game. Though I tried my best to be a good man, in your eyes, I guess I lost this hand. I never knew how it was going to feel to lose you, even though I never pleased you. Please know I always loved you, the man I never knew. The whole town seemed to think you were great. You were the man about town. Here comes Joe, and there goes Joe. You, the man I never got to know. No one could deny that I was your boy. I looked at photos of you and see myself. And though I look like you, I could never bring you joy. I've been trying since I was that boy. But alas, I can stop. There's nothing left to prove. I can relax now. There goes Joe. And now it's time for both of us to move on. Welcome back to Magnificent Living Today. And again, we're here to talk about the flow. Jennifer Frazier is here with me today. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Carl.
So good to see you.
You too.
Yeah. We also are joined by Rosemary Remsburg. Welcome, Rosemary. And our director, Oliver. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
So we're here to talk about getting back into the flow. And I'm just going to kind of let go of the reins for a minute because I just want everyone to just sit back and tell me about how you continue the flow in your life. So I'm going to start with you, Jennifer, and let's just talk about the flow.
Yeah, getting back into the flow is so important, Carl. And for me, in order for me to do that, I've had to do it one day at a time. Last year, I lost my grandfather from prostate cancer. The year before, my grandmother from lung cancer. So it's been, a hard couple of years losing two people that I've loved so dear. And so after you encounter such a blow like that, for me, I've just had to take it one day at a time, as I said. Some days you get up and you just do feel down and you do feel sad, but it's moment by moment, day by day, and having that faith that, they're in a better place, they're not hurting anymore, and knowing that I'm going to be okay too, and taking that one step day in, day out, and knowing that there's a brighter day, even though that might not be today, still looking ahead towards that future, knowing that I'm going to be okay, and just remembering all the love that I shared with them and all the time that we had together has been most important, and has been able to carry me through.
And I guess the way that I see getting back into the flow for myself is realizing that there's only this moment. The past is gone. It's over with. I can't change it. I can't do anything with the past. The future, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So all I can do is focus on this moment and make this the best moment. I love looking back at the past and being able to remember, and I just try to pull out the good things. Because you can sit there and you can pull out all the garbage and just fill your head and your soul and your body and your spirit with all the garbage, and that just brings disease to you. My first spiritual leader said that disease, if you broke the word in half, It was dis-ease. So when you have dis-ease in your body, you allow disease to overcome you. And so I feel like it's very, very important to just be here in this moment, loving this moment, because I always hear people who have 9-to-5 jobs say, I can't wait until Friday, and it's Tuesday. And I say, you're going to wish away Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get to Friday, and you'll miss all the moments in between. Right. And I'm really trying to catch all the minutes in between. So, Rosemary, let's talk about your flow.
Getting back to the flow, it's not a matter of loss of life. It was my cancer. It really kicks your legs out from under you. It's, what do you mean I have cancer? I can't have cancer. And then you go through all the treatments, and again, it's one day at a time, one step at a time afterwards. I thought, after I finished the treatments and I got my hair back, I thought, oh, it's going to be awesome. Everything is going to be fine. It's going to be just like it was. Only it never really is. It's different. You live with a different perspective. And always, and maybe this is just me, but in the back of your mind, oh my goodness, is that stomach? Oh my goodness, is that cancer? I have a headache. So, but you have to have the faith to push on, and you have to be strong. And one step, again, as you said, one step at a time, and knowing, and not necessarily knowing, but hoping and planning for a good future, for things to be good in the future. And it makes you a different person. So I am still trying to get used to this new person I've become.
Well, I can feel where you were coming from with your father, because I had a similar relationship with my father, but mine was good. I didn't have the privilege of growing up with my father, but after I was grown out of the Army, we got together and we really became good friends. And it seemed just as we began to enjoy each other, he was gone. But it was a great relationship while it lasted. The other thing is what Rosemary was saying. I can feel that too, because after cancer, you're a different person. You don't live the same kind of life. I think you kind of maybe appreciate life a little bit more, but it's different. Sometimes I do think about when I get the cramps in my stomach, is the cancer back or is it? And it's not that I'm afraid of it. It's whether I would have the resolve or even the inclination to fight it as hard as I did the first time. And to be very honest with you, Carl, dying has never been a problem with me. I never even thought about it when I had cancer. My problem is that I'm going to get so sick that I'd be a burden to someone. That's my fear. I've always said I never want to be a burden to anybody.
In one of Annie Lennox's songs, she says, dying is easy, it's living that scares me to death.
Right.
And really that's the way that it is, because living is the hard part. Being in the moment is the hard part. Rosemary, how did you feel the very first moment when they said you have cancer?
I almost dropped the phone. I was stunned because everyone said to me, don't worry, this does not look at all malignant. I don't think you have anything to worry about. We're just going to do this as a routine. And when I found out, it was just, I got weak. It was weak in the knees, and my stomach clenched, and I got a little nauseated, and I thought, this can't be happening to me. It was almost unbelievable. And then, of course, the reality hits you, and you think, oh, my goodness, probably a little weeping, gnashing of my teeth. It was difficult. It's a terrible diagnosis. As I said, it really does take your legs out from under you. it's a stunning thing. Cancer is not a word you want to have applied to you ever, or anyone you love. But it's anyway, it was so it was total disbelief and shock.
Well, to me, it was a shock. I was in an emergency room, and it was a shock because actually I was given a death sentence right there. You know, the first diagnosis was that I had pancreatic cancer, and don't many people recover from pancreatic cancer. And it was actually the first time that I'd ever seen a doctor cry.
Wow.
I had a woman doctor, and she came in after I'd taken all the tests and everything. She came in and she just walked up to me and put her arms around me. And she said, "Mr. Wilford, I am so sorry. We have diagnosed pancreatic cancer." And she said, "And I have to be honest with you, we haven't had much success in healing that ailment." And strangely, I was at peace. I mean, the moment she told me, I accepted it. And I told her, "Doctor, don't cry for me. I'm going to beat it. Whatever it is, I'm going to beat it." Maybe I was in a little denial at that time. I don't know. But I just felt that I was not going to give in to that kind of diagnosis. And I told her, "I'm going to beat it." But it was the first time in my life that I'd ever seen a doctor cry.
You don't want to see a doctor cry.
Yeah. So actually, they found out later, the prognosis was no better, but they found out that I had a level 4 incurable stomach cancer. And they gave me 3 to 5 months to live. And I kind of laughed at the doctor, and I told him, I said, as I told the doctor in emergency, that I don't accept that. He said, "Mr. Wilford, you have to be realistic. We don't have very much success in curing the kind of cancer you have because it's very rare. In Asia, it's prevalent, but not here." And I said, "Well, you don't know who my doctor is." I said, "Now, I will do what you say, but I also have to do what I have to do. And then there's one stipulation: never lie to me. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. But I want to know." And my oncologist and I had a great relationship, and I think that was one of the things that helped me through it, because people have always said, get a doctor that you trust. And I trusted my doctor completely.
So the FLOW is an acronym, and the acronym is F is faith, L is love, O is optimism, W is wisdom. So we're going to start with F, faith. And Jennifer, tell us, how did your faith get you through your hard times?
Oh, my goodness. Well, seeing that I have such a firm foundation and faith in God, I was able to really hold on to that to carry me through. So trusting, believing that all was going to be well, no matter what the outer conditions look like. So no matter what the circumstances, knowing who I was as a person, knowing that, this too shall pass, no matter how difficult it felt, no matter, all of the different emotions I've experienced, the happiness, the sad times, the disappointments, the anger of losing someone that you care about, knowing that a brighter day is still going to come, that I still had so much to be grateful for, and to really look at all the people that were still in my life that I loved and cared about, looking at, all the things that I had that brought a smile to my face. And it's not even about material things, it's about the simple things in life, being thankful for the sunshine today, hearing the birds chirping. Just being grateful for life. It really helped me to understand how lucky I was to be alive and how important that is, because I think a lot of times in our culture, in our society, that's not valued a lot. I think a lot of times you forget that we only have this one life to live, and to, you know, it's up to us for it to be as fulfilling as we want it to be. And so really holding on to that faith and that love, and knowing that everything was going to be okay. Even though I didn't feel like it at the moment, it is going to be okay.
Yeah. You know, and life is going to be hard. We're going to get those lumps and bumps. We always talk about those. And the roads are going to, some of the roads we are going to choose are going to be difficult. But I always say that living through difficulty or working through difficulty is like lifting weights. It only makes you stronger. And each time you go through something difficult, you become a better and stronger person for it.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. And it was like my relationship with my father. Always very, very hard, because everyone in town loved my father. He just was the greatest guy. And he had a van, and on the front of the van it said, "Here comes Joe." And on the back of the van it said, "There goes Joe." And it was a source of entertainment for the kids in my school, because I'd get off the school bus and I'd hear, "Here comes Joe." And I'd go to get on the school bus at the end of the day, and I'd hear people scream, "There goes Joe." And back then, it was an irritating thing for me. And I put up on Facebook a picture of my father, and I got a lot of responses from friends from high school and kids I grew up with and people I went to college with, you know, friends from all over. And one of my best friends from high school, he wrote his condolences, and at the very end he wrote, "There goes Joe." And it just touched me, because it made me realize that not only had he touched our lives, but he had touched the lives of people all over the place. Yeah. And he'll always be remembered that way. So Rosemary, let's talk about your faith.
First of all, I think you have to have faith in yourself that you can deal with what you have been handed, because, as Jennifer says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think there was a bit of, and I'm sorry to admit this, but I think I was kind of disappointed. It was a, why me? And then when you realize you're being treated early, you see so many people who are so much worse than you are. People who look like they really have one foot really in the grave, with they're on chemotherapy, going through all this, and they're looking terrible. And I think, wow, how fortunate I am to be as well as I am, and how fortunate I was at the beginning to be as strong physically as I am to withstand and to overcome the treatment, if you will. And my family was an inspiration too. They all rallied. They were very strong. And I began to realize that this was something that was not going to kill me necessarily, but was going to make me stronger, change me forever, but make me stronger. So I think that was it. But there is that moment of, why me? You know.
But you got great gray hair from it.
I did. I did. It was lurking all the while. I didn't know it. Yeah.
I'll never forget the first day Rosemary had lost her hair, and she was wearing little hats, and one day she just walked in with nothing on her head. And although my jaw dropped, I was like, oh. It just was so wonderful that she had accepted it as it was and just decided that I'm just going to live this way. This is what it is. And I think that was the first time that I saw you smile after you had gone through you were actually still in your treatment, but you came in and you actually just looked at me and you smiled, and I thought, she's getting through this.
But did your hair grow back with a different texture?
It was curly. I had lovely curls.
Me too. What little I had, it grew back much softer and everything. The chemo, I know it. I guess it does something to you.
It does.
Your hair just grows back differently.
I never had black hair in my life. I was always probably light brown, and this is definitely black and white. It's amazing. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, my eyelashes and eyebrows are going to fall out too. Thank goodness, but I was worried about that.
Yeah, I just conducted an interview with my daughter Karen, and one of the questions she asked me was, what did you say how did the question come up? When did you ask why me? And I had to honestly tell her I can't answer that question because I never asked why me. Ernestine and I went home. I think I stayed in the hospital a couple of days after the diagnosis for tests and so on. But when we went home, we sat on the couch and we held hands and we prayed. And I said, okay, God, it's in your hands. I know that I can't beat this, but you can. Now I'm turning it over to you. Now I have never been a Bible carrier or a person who hollers praise God every time you speak to them. And I cannot honestly tell you where the faith came from that pulled me through this ordeal. But I chose a scripture from Ephesians. It's Ephesians 6, verses 11 to 18, and it talks about putting on the whole armor of God. And I read that scripture every morning when I got up and every night when I went to bed. And I did not allow negative thoughts in my house. My daughters called me and they were very angry with Ernestine because they said we were both in denial because we were not crying, we were not falling out saying, why me, woe is me. And I simply told them, I love you. But if you cannot call me and support me, then don't call and don't come. And I meant it. As much as I love them, I would not have allowed them in my house with negative thoughts. But that's what you have to do. You have to fight it. Cancer is, as Rosemary said, cancer is an awful sickness. It's an awful sickness that you do not go through by yourself. A lot of people will, it's my business, and I don't want people to know how sick I am. I don't want people to know my business. Cancer is not a sickness that you should go through by yourself. You need that love. You need that support. And without it, I don't think that you can survive. I know I would not have survived. The other thing that I did was I wrote a journal. And I sent it out on the email, and it just escalated. It just mushroomed. I got positive thoughts from Hawaii, Australia, all over the United States. And I would send that out every week, letting people know how I felt. If I felt lousy the week that I wrote it, they knew that I felt lousy, and they would send back and give me all kind of positive thoughts. And that pulled me through. And as I said, I have no idea where the faith came from, but I had it. I think I call it a living faith. I ate it, I lived it, I breathed it, and I walked it. And that's what brought me through, along with my caregiver, which is my wife, Ernestine. And I'll talk about her later.
You have anything to add, Jennifer?
I just wanted to say, Oliver, that that's such an important, I think, aspect of your healing, if I may say so, where you are feeding into your mind, into your spirit all of that positive affirmations. For instance, you found a Bible verse that really spoke to you, and you stood on that. And I often say you do not have the luxury of a negative thought, because that's a really slippery slope. Once you have one negative thought, it just snowballs into another, and it grows really big. So not allowing any negativity to enter into your space and meditating on that Bible verse morning and night, I think also helps to build up that mind, build up your strength inside. And so I think that's a key to healing in whatever situation you're going through, whether it's, having cancer or, you know, whatever circumstances, you know, a job loss or whatever, just standing on a firm foundation on, you know, what is the truth, what you believe. This might be the condition, this is the circumstances that I'm going through right now in my life, but this is not the truth of who I am. And so really understanding that and not allowing anyone to have, you know, a negative voice, you know, in your head. And like you said, I love my girls, but I'm not going to allow you to, you know, say anything negative around me. And still being honest and still being truthful on the days that you're not feeling well. It's okay to say, I'm not feeling well. But I love that you got so much love and support from all over the world. And it was really able to continue to uplift you and move you through. And I think, you know, that helped really to guide you along on your path, on that way to getting better and feeling better.
That's the love. That's the L.
Yeah.
The love part. Because the love is so important. And Rosemary has a beautiful family who I know in my heart were so supportive to her. And there was never a time when I ever had to worry about, was Rosemary getting enough love? And it was difficult for me. I mean, because Rosemary worked for me at the time, and she was changing. And I was expecting the same Rosemary. And it was hard at first because I was in denial. I really was in denial that there was anything wrong with her, because wrong with her, I could lose her. And I just could not even accept that at all in my thought process. And so I kept trying to ignore it, and she kept throwing it back in my face. And I would try to ignore it, and she would throw it back in my face. And sometimes we would argue, and I would be like, just be positive, just forget about it, because it was actually for my comfort. And I had to learn how to say that this is the Rosemary that I love, and cancer has become part of the person that I love. And so I have to allow myself to see Rosemary first before I saw the cancer, but still realize that the cancer was there. And I maybe never said that to you, but I felt like the cancer had hit me. And it was out of loving you that allowed me to get back to the moment and just say, this is where we are, this is what we have to deal with, and I just have to stand by. And like you said, when she felt lousy, trust me, she told me, I feel lousy. And you know, positive Carl, I thought, let me cheer her up.
See, I found that it was almost like you were ignoring or trying to ignore the condition. You have to acknowledge it.
Yes.
The person who has it has to acknowledge it, and certainly the people around have to acknowledge it. And my son and my daughter both, I can't believe this is happening. And my motto was, of course, as I said, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do to change it, but you have to acknowledge it. You can't say, be happy, it'll be all right.
It'll be over after a while.
Oh, tell me that in a year and a half. I don't want. I know that intellectually. I know that, but it's very hard to deal with the happy thoughts and whatever when you're.
And like you and I were talking the last time we met, is people walk up to you.
I know.
And say,
I know. Oh, how are you?
how are you? I know exactly how you feel. You do not know exactly how I feel.
Or did you read my death notice in the paper, or something that I didn't know about? It was just, this isn't what you need to hear. I mean, it's fine for people to inquire. How are you, Oliver? Are you feeling better? And I know you've had a bad time, but not the long, searching look in the eyes and
the condescending
yes,
tone.
yes.
And it really bugged me when people said, I know how you
feel.
You don't have this thing growing in your stomach. You do not know how I feel.
In hearing you recounting your diagnosis and everything, I'm thinking, wow, I was so lucky. I mean, you had cancer, my friend. I had a little...
Cancer is cancer.
I know, but you really must have been. I know how traumatized I was with my diagnosis, and yours was many, 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 many times more serious. So.
I haven't figured that part out yet either. How I was able to be so calm at that point, and as you say, I just think it's the love that I have around me. You know, I've been married to this lady in the control room for 43 years, and she's taken very good care of me and loved me to a point that, to the highest lovetivity. Yeah. And so I can pull on that strength, and I did pull on it during the cancer, and she was the one that received the brunt of my frustration and you do get frustrated, and I don't care how positive you want to be, you do get frustrated, you do get frustrated because you can't do the things that you want to do. Frustrated because you see other people doing those things that you want to do. And they are there. They're right in front of you. So who's going to get the brunt of your anger? The caregiver. And people have to realize, though, that that's not me. It's not Rosemary. It's the chemo. It's the treatment that changes the person within. And you have to be very, very strong. And very humble to be able to say, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean that. And that's very hard for some people to do, you know, to say I'm sorry. But you have to be humble enough to say, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but right now we're going to need to take a break real quick. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how optimism and wisdom carried us all the way through and got us back into the flow. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. I'm excited. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome back to Magnificent Living Today. And we've been having such a great conversation that I don't want to break it up, but I do want to talk about one of my little lumps and bumps that I just went through and kind of talk about my friends, because in the business that I'm in, the fitness business, back in the day, there was no research. So we didn't know not to jump up and down and go crazy, and you couldn't teach 25 aerobic classes in a week. And many of my friends have been given hip replacements or knee replacements as we have gone through this. And I'm sitting here listening to you all talk about what you went through. And the hard part for all of my fitness friends, for Damon, for John, for Lisa, is we're always used to being the one in control and the one who is strong. And I never got a chance to complain about my hip replacement because a friend of mine had his right hip replaced, then he had his left hip replaced, and then the right hip broke again and he had the right hip replaced again. So now he's on 3 hip replacements. Wow. And I've never heard him complain, never once. And the day after my hip replacement, I called him up because I was ready to complain. And he told me that he was just about to go in and have his 3rd replacement. And he was cheerful. And I just had to say, okay, stop. And this is where optimism had to come into it. I had to be optimistic that I've seen other friends go through it and come out joyous. I had to be optimistic in that this is something that is temporary. And so many things that people, illnesses, they're not temporary. This is eventually going to make me better. And I can tell you I'm a year out, and I am walking and feeling better than I felt in the last 5 years. And I feel more positive than I have in the last 5 years. And I think it's when you go through the difficult times, it makes the good times so much better. And I always tell people when they're going through their hard times, I'm saying, you go through this hard time and you live through it and you work your way through it. And at the end of it, on the other side of it, you're going to come out stronger and you're going to appreciate it at such a higher level. So Jennifer, let's talk about optimism.
Optimism. Yeah. There are some days I think that I'm probably more optimistic than others.
And that's all of us.
That's all of us. But you know what helps me, and we talk about it a lot, Carl, is really, you know, and I can't say it enough, having this attitude of gratitude. And for me, what I like to do, I have a gratitude journal, and I pull it out daily, and I find things daily to be grateful for. So, you know, even if it's, gosh, I got out of bed this morning and I exercised for 10 minutes. Okay, that's something that I can be grateful for. And, you know, certainly the bigger things, you know, my family, you know, my work. I love that I get up and come to work every day and do what I love to do and share this information, but really getting to the heart of the matter and understanding that despite what we go through, we still have so much to be grateful for. And, you know, understanding what that is and holding on to that, because as we cultivate all the things that we do have to be grateful for, we're going to attract even more things to be grateful for and just continue to build on top of that. So, you know, coming out the other side and, like you said, Rosemary, looking at, you know, sometimes just how lucky you are that, okay, my circumstance isn't as bad as someone else's. Again, being grateful for that and just understanding that you still have so much to look forward to. Brighter days are still ahead, living in the moment, this power of now that I often talk about. Now is all we have. So I'm not going to worry about yesterday. That's already gone. I'm not even going to worry about tomorrow. Easier said than done, I know.
Right, exactly, right.
But that is the start of it, knowing that in this very moment right now, all is well. I am okay. And so that's how it begins, taking those steps forward until you can, you know, change your perspective, change your complete outlook. But it's one step at a time.
I always tell my class to honor where you are, because every day is different. And every day you're not going to be as optimistic as others. You're not going to be as joyful as others. But you just have to honor where you are at that moment, because that's the moment we're in.
Yeah.
And if we're, no matter where we're coming from, if we can take it from a place of honor, it's going to elevate us. If you look at it as dishonor, I'm so disgusted with where I am today. I love the story what you tell about when you were getting your chemo and you were sick and you were throwing up, and you said the best part was that there was that cool rag that Miss Ernestine put on the back of your head.
Yes.
Yeah, and that keeps you optimistic. It keeps you up. It keeps you alive. Tell me about it.
Oh, well, during the chemo, first let me lead up to that. The chemo that I was on was the harshest chemo that you could take. The doctor didn't give it to me. I chose it. He gave me a choice of 3. And he said that was the most harsh. And I said, well, does all 3 make you sick? And he said, well, yeah. I said, well, give me that one. So I took that one, and they put a power port in my chest, and they attached a machine to me. I took chemo for 5 weeks, 24 hours a day. I couldn't take a shower. I could take a bath, but I'd have to put the machine over. But it did make me sick. And I would try to sneak out of bed because she'd been up. I'd have to take shots in my stomach to keep from getting infection. And, you know, she had to do a lot of things for me that I could probably do for myself, but she did them. But anyway, I try to sneak out of bed around 2 o'clock in the morning to keep from waking her. And I'd be in the bathroom with my head halfway down the toilet, and I mean, it seems as though my whole insides was coming up. And I'd feel this cold towel behind my head, and she would be saying, it's okay, it'll be okay, you know. And that went a long way. That's what you talk about, the love and the optimism that, yeah, I can make it because I've got this wonderful person behind me, you know. And that, as Jennifer says, you know, some days you're not as optimistic as you were the day before, but if you have the faith that we talked about earlier, it will always return. The optimism will return if you remain faithful. Now, if you don't, it won't.
Rosemary and I had a little joke. When she was in a good mood, she was Positive Patty. And so I would call her up and I'd say, how's Positive Patty? And sometimes Positive Patty didn't answer, Negative Nancy answered. And I said, oh, I'm talking to Negative Nancy today. And so we just had to learn how to make a joke out of it. So let's talk a little bit about your optimism.
Well, I was thinking that Oliver's marriage is running pretty parallel with mine. I will be a bride of 43 years in December. And my husband as well was a wonderful caregiver, always there, always willing to listen or to help out in any way he could. And he remained optimistic because he knew that was important to me. And I think it was contagious. Again, not every day, but when I most needed it, it was there for me. And the support, again, of friends and family, people who brought things for us to eat, food and desserts, and people who called or stopped by. Very, very important. But mostly the man in the house with me 24/7. It was, he helped a great deal.
I think I'm most optimistic when I started looking at the dates, Carl. It's been, I was operated on February the 8th of 09. In February, it will be 3 years that I've been cancer-free. And I'm optimistic. I said, sorry, Ernestine, I took a year from you. It's 44. I'm optimistic that we're going to reach 50.
Well, that's a very optimistic thing to feel. Yeah.
Coincidentally, my surgery was in February of 09 as well.
Hey, we got a lot in common.
We do.
Miss Ernestine, you better watch out. Okay, so let's talk about wisdom and how wisdom, first, the wisdom that you had going into your cancer. How did that help you?
I think I had probably seen many facets of life throughout the course of my life. I had seen people be ill. Some succumbed. Others were cured and went on. That's a very difficult question. I think it's a matter of experience. Wisdom in the sense of living life is probably very important. And of course, the older you are, the wiser you are, obviously.
We hope.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's a matter of seeing a lot and accepting a lot and understanding that all people are different. They react differently. They accept or not. It's just, I think it varies from individual to individual. I never really thought about the wisdom involved, but I think it has to do with just seeing the world around you, accepting things for what they are, and knowing that life is not over because you have a diagnosis of cancer. So.
When I got the diagnosis that I needed to have the hip replacement, I was blown away. A hip replacement? Are you kidding me? At the time I was 49 years old. And they said, you can wait a while, but eventually you're going to have this surgery. And I lived in a little bit of denial, I think up until the point when I was walking on a cane, and then I couldn't deny it anymore. And so I did the internet thing, which I beg you, don't do that, because the internet will scare you to death. I went in and I started reading about hip replacements. And the very first page I came up on was hip replacements recalled. And all these people who had their hip replacements recalled. So I called my doctor frantic. I wanted all of the knowledge, everything I could find out about hip replacements. But in retrospect, it was the wisdom that got me through. Wisdom showed me or told me or lived in me that other people have lived through hip replacements. It's not the end of the world. Other people, just like me, who are used to being strong, have allowed themselves to be weak so that they can be stronger again. And sometimes knowledge gets in the way of wisdom. And so I often warn my clients when they come to me with their concerns that you can know as much as you want to know, but until you transfer that into knowledge into wisdom, it's useless. And I just feel like it's so important for our viewers and for all of us to realize that be wise. Learn from what is given to you. People always say, well, why did this happen to me? Everything that is presented before us, that's part of God's plan. He gave us that so that we could become wise. And I think that that's my goal for my life, is at the end of the road, I want to say, I have gained so much wisdom. Because you can leave the world with all of the knowledge, but if to leave the world with no wisdom, you leave the world empty. And my father, I think that he was a very stubborn person, and he had all of the knowledge, but he never used the wisdom within him to allow himself to love the people around him. It seemed the more you loved him, the more he pushed you away. And that's why I talk about him rejecting me. I spent my whole life trying to please my father. But my wisdom has shown me now that he's not here, and I say, oh, I can stop trying to please him. If perhaps I had a different father, I may not have worked so hard in my life. Because I thought my father just said, okay, you're a good son just the way you are, I might have just laid back and lived in that. But because no matter what I did, you know, I could have jumped over the moon and came back and said, Daddy, I jumped over the moon, and he'd go, what next? You know, what else? And I would leave and just feel so horrible. But at this point, today, sitting here in this moment, the wisdom has taught me that that is the reason why I learned to keep it moving. You know, that's what life is about. Life is about keeping it moving. And you're never going to please everybody. You're just not. And the only person you can honestly work on pleasing is yourself.
You're right.
And that's what, for me, allows me to live in this moment in wisdom. You have anything to add, Jennifer?
I just have a question for both Oliver and Rosemary. Now that you both have come out on the other side of cancer, a couple of questions. What did it teach you about life? And are there any positives of having had cancer and gone through it? And now that you're on the other side, you know, what thoughts can you share about that? Twofold question.
I'll go with that one. The positive for me is that I truly appreciate life more now. I never thought about my body as a thing that would get sick, because I was never very sick. Ernestine had to remind me, though, a couple of months ago. She says, Oliver, you know you've been through 2 cancers? I had prostate cancer, but it never, like, sunk in that was a cancer. And the other positive thing is, my doctor used to tell me, my oncologist, he used to laugh. He said, at the time I was 79, and he said, Mr. Wilford, I'm trying to figure out which one of you to treat. He says, you're 79 years old, you have a body of a 50-year-old, and you talk like a 40-year-old. But I never thought of it that way, you know. But now I treat my body better. I eat better. I try to rest more. I take yoga with Carl now. And even a few weeks ago, I passed out because my body was not the same as it was before. I was on a blood pressure medication. At the time when I was prescribed for it, I was weighing over 300 pounds. Well, after the cancer, I've lost over 110 pounds. I eat better, and as I said, I exercise better. So my body doesn't need that strong medication anymore.
Right.
And due to a lot of other things that happened within those few hours, I passed out. I mean, I just literally passed out. And so since I've been off of that medication, I feel a whole lot better. But the wisdom comes in is knowing how to treat yourself, knowing how to treat your body. And also, I don't think God saved me to go around and holler, praise God, he saved me. I think he saved me to talk to people as we're talking now and telling people, not the medical part of it, that's doctor's work, but I can tell people, and Rosemary can tell people, what they can do for themselves to make any kind of situation better, not just cancer, but any terminal illness, any, as you say, any situation that you're in. If you know what that situation is about, you can deal with it. And I think God saved me to talk to people about, because when I got cancer, I didn't know that much about it. I hadn't been around too many people with it, but I went on the internet and I learned everything I could about stomach cancer. And I learned everything I could about what I could eat or drink that would help me not to be sick.
Okay.
You know? So I think that's the positive part of having the cancer and surviving it, you know, is to be able to talk to people. Rosemary?
I think being diagnosed gives you a sense of your own, for the first time in my life, really, your own mortality. Oh my goodness, this could kill me. I don't think people plan for their deaths, or they don't even think about it. And then I think the fact that you overcome the disease gives you the feeling, yes, I can do it. I did it. I accomplished something. The only good thing I can think of from the cancer treatment, chemotherapy is poison. I mean, it kills the bad cells, but it also has to do a really big number on the good cells too. But there were two good things that came from the chemotherapy, and I'm falling back on the sense of humor because this is how I got through much of my treatment and the cancer. There were two good things. I saved a tremendous amount of money on hair product and time. And number two, I was repellent to mosquitoes. For some reason, the mosquitoes, just left me, which was marvelous because I'm a draw. If you want to draw the mosquitoes away from you, you put me in the middle of the group and they'll all, but not for the year I was still on. So those were the good things. And
I love that you didn't lose your sense of humor. I mean, I think that's so important. No matter what the circumstance is, having that sense of humor, being able to look on the bright side of things.
It got me through a lot of hard times. So anyway, thank you.
I find that music gets me through when I'm having a bad time or when I'm having a bad day, because there are so many. I love the way people can manipulate words and make them just simply beautiful. Words you hear every day, just manipulated in a way that makes you feel completely different. And for me, when I was sitting down, because it took a lot for me to sit down, and the doctor told me I wasn't going to walk for 12 weeks. At 5 weeks, Carl had to walk. I had to. And I remember I went in for my post-surgery exam, and I walked in, and the doctor looked at me and he said, "Where's your cane?" And I honestly brought the cane because I didn't want him to see me off of it, but I had forgotten it in the car. And I said, "If you want, I can walk back out in the car and get it if it's going to make you feel better." But it's all about that positive mental attitude. And when you can keep that positive mental attitude, it gets you through things so much easier, because no matter what, if they came back and said to me, "You're never going to walk again," you know what? I did what I could do, and I would still be breathing. And there are so many people, whenever I hear someone say, "Oh, I wish I was dead," or "Oh, everything is so terrible," I think, you know what? Do you know how many people would just love to have 10 more minutes of breath to say what they needed to say or do what they needed to do? And it bothers me when people talk that way, because we are so blessed for every moment that we're given. That they tell you that you have cancer, the moment they tell you you need to have your hip replaced, it's a moment of gratitude, because at last you know what's going on. The moment that the surgery happens, I remember going into surgery and everyone around me was afraid. My mom looked at the doctor and she said, "Please don't let anything happen to him." And I was laughing. And they gave me the anesthesia, so I was starting to get a little giddy anyway. But I remember going in, and the last thing they did was they put a little hat on me. And the hat looked so silly, and I had no hair. So it was not like my hair was going to get in the way. But she said, "Well, we have to put the hat on." And I said, "Do I have to wear the hat?" And the next thing I know, I woke up and I had a new hip. But even that moment, when I go back to that moment when I said, do I have to put on the hat? It makes me smile. Because even at that moment, I still was able to keep my sense of humor. So I think that wisdom shows you that if you live your life in a way that you know you're living, you're learning, but not only learning, you're taking what you're learning and applying it to your life. So let's talk about application of wisdom, and then we're going to have to get out of here. But Jennifer, tell me, how do you apply your wisdom?
How do I apply it? I take from everything that I've been through, everything that I've known, and depending on the circumstances that I'm facing, I use it to move me forward. So, in other words, trying to think of a quick example, but basically being able to know that, okay, I got through a tough situation before. This is not so bad. I can make it through this. And for me, it's just really, again, just placing that one step in front of the other. Taking, what I know to be the truth of who I am. I'm not this person who might be sick. Yes, I might be feeling that this is the condition right now, but the truth is, I'm a strong, vibrant, healthy woman, and I continue to be optimistic about my life and really understanding who I am so that I can take that step forward. Does anyone understand what I'm trying to say
I
here?
hear what you're saying.
Yeah, really taking, I feel like God prepares, everything that I've been through prepares me for this moment. And so I know that, okay, God, I haven't come all the way here for you to leave me now. So I can continue to press forward and keep going forward, knowing that in this moment, all is well. I'm going to be able to make it. And, I'll just take that one step. Sometimes all you need to do is take that one step. So one step at a time.
I have a friend who's a makeup artist, and she's one of my best friends, Trifina, and one of her things that she always says is, we always are getting ready to go out, and she'll tell me, I have to break it all the way back down and then build it all the way back up. And she's talking about her makeup, but she's also talking about her attitude. And so that means that she's going to lay down, take a shower, get back up and put her makeup back on. But that's what we have to do sometimes. We just have to lay down, get up, refresh, and put it all back up again. And some days it's harder than others.
Absolutely.
But I think that when you live in wisdom, you know that faith, wisdom, love, and optimism are going to get me through this. It's going to get me through this day. It's going to get me through this moment. And if I didn't have the tough moments, I could never appreciate the good moments. So you've got to go through the bad. You've got to live through that. And when you live through that, when a good moment comes, you jump right on it. You're like, woo, this is a good moment. What are you leaving us with today, Rosemary?
It's a cliche, and we've already said it, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I feel that I am now a stronger person. I know that I can fight a good fight.
I know that.
And I think that I have been able to talk to people who have been recently diagnosed, or who have gone through what I've gone through, and talk to them, and hopefully to let them know, to reassure them that it's not the end, that there is life beyond cancer. It was such a wonderful thing when I discovered that. There is life beyond cancer, after cancer. And I guess maybe that's the wisdom that I would like to share with people. And wisdom after any, life after any major crisis in someone's life, life will return to normal eventually. And some might not be the same form that it was prior to, but it will be normal and good again. You just have to have that faith, and you have to be strong and know that this is true. So.
Oliver?
Well, I can tell you how I would like to use my wisdom. Not necessarily that I'm using it. I would like to use my wisdom to tell people, sick or well, let somebody love you. Don't shun people. Don't push people away, because the person that is helping you may need to help you as much as you need the help. It may be doing something for them internally. And when you push them away, when you shun them, that does not give them the chance to receive that which they need to receive. Also, to tell people, as I said before, that you can live beyond cancer. There's things that you can do for yourself. Eat right, live right, exercise, have that faith that we've talked about. Also, if you believe in God, it says that your body is a temple. Then live that way. Make your body a temple. You know, again, realize what you're putting into it, and also control this. You know, in a chapter in the Bible, I think it's James, he said the tongue is the vilest thing of the body, and it is. You know, what you say can destroy a person. It can hurt a person so badly that they never recover from it. Like you say, the things that your father said to you, you didn't fully recover from those things until maybe now that you're working on it. But I need to work on me, how I talk to people, how I respond to people, and how I react to people. Stop reacting and act, I guess, is the phrase. But a lot of times people will say things to me and I react. And I have to work on myself. And that's the wisdom that I am gaining from having cancer, is that there is a lot of feeling in this world. There's a lot of feeling in the people around you. And again, I say, let people love you. That's how I got through it, by letting people love me.
And that's a very wise way to look at it, because there are people that love you. And we do, when we're sick, shun them, and when we're in a bad mood, try to avoid them. And probably, just like you said, that they need just as much love and support as you do. And realize that the people who are going through it with you need that same support and that same amount of love. And for me, I have learned, like you said, I'm just beginning this journey of healing with my father passing. But what wisdom shows me is that I will, and that now I get a chance to please myself. I've always been a people pleaser. That's me by nature. I want to make people happy. I was in the fitness industry and I wanted to be everything that everyone else wanted me to be. And one day I stopped there and I said, wisdom has shown me that this is no longer who I am. But like I talked about that supposed self, that's who Carl Powell was supposed to be. And when I dropped my supposed self, now with my father I can drop my assumed self and get to my actual self. So now I'm working on becoming my actual self, and I hope that more wisdom will come along with that. Jennifer, Rosemary, Oliver, I'd like to thank you so much for being here today. Next week, Jennifer and I will be back, and we're going to be talking about the flow, getting back into the flow after having your heart broken, and how to build a flow chart to make sure that your flow is on. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.